Welcome or welcome back to A Better Choice Homestead. My name is Kelly, and on my channel I focus on food, growing it, preparing it, and preserving it. Today is Tuesday, and that means we are doing an edition of Tasty Tuesday. And today I'm going to be making something I haven't made before. I'm going to be making black strap steaks with caramelized onion relish. So I order beef and pork in bulk once a year from a local farmer, and this year I got some cuts that I don't remember picking, including these Chuck Dell steaks, and I've never used them. I don't know what to do with them, so I went back to my farmer's website, and with each cut of beef that they offer, you can click on the picture of it and it will take you to a recipe, which this is that recipe. And then when I looked up this recipe online, it turns out this is a very, very popular recipe that a lot of people have posted. So that's what I'm gonna go with. Fingers crossed that it turns out well. I am gonna be tweaking it just a little bit because I have some ingredients that I wanna use that are not necessarily fresh. So I am gonna be using some freeze-dried diced sweet peppers, and I'm also gonna be using some of those caramelized onions that I freeze-dried earlier this year. I think that this is gonna come out amazing. If you don't have these in freeze-dry form, you can just cook down some peppers and some onions in a skillet. That's gonna take you probably an extra 15-20 minutes. You don't necessarily need to get the onions completely caramelized because that takes a good 45 minutes to an hour, but you definitely wanna get them sauteed and soaking up some butter. And I'm gonna start with the pine nuts. This recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of pine nuts. This is probably 3 tablespoons, and that's okay. So I've got just a little skillet here on the stove, and we need to get these toasted. And you want to toast nuts, especially pine nuts, on a lower heat because they'll go from blonde and raw to black and charred in no time at all if you are not paying attention. So just a couple minutes in the pan, staying close to keep them moving around the pan. If you're good at flipping things in the pan, feel free to do that. I am just gonna be stirring them around. I want them constantly moving because once they start to heat up, they're gonna toast up pretty quick. And once they're done, I'm just gonna pour them back into this bowl and set them aside. While we're waiting for these to toast up, let's talk just a little bit about some of the ingredients that we're gonna be using. I did mention that I'm gonna be cooking up some Chuck Dell steaks. I wasn't familiar with these. I had to look them up, and it turns out that the flavor and the texture is very, very similar to ribeye steaks, so that's good. I was thinking that these were probably a bit more tough, but apparently they're really flavorful and tender, so that's good. They also have obviously a lot of protein in them. They've got B3, they've got B12, they've got zinc, selenium, and iron. So beef is really good for energy production in your body, as well as brain health, immune support, and nerve function. And then the peppers, even though they're freeze-dried, when you freeze-dry peppers, you're maintaining a lot of the nutritional value in there, and they are loaded with vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin A, B6, K, B9, and iron. So loaded with antioxidants, including polyphenols, which help lower your risk of heart disease and cancer. And then these little guys here, I'm gonna go ahead and turn these off now. These look good and toasted. Pine nuts have pinolenic acid in them, and that helps lower your LDL cholesterol, so they're very, very heart healthy. They also contain polyphenols, so again, you've got antioxidants in here. They've got manganese in them, which lowers your risk of diabetes, and they have a lot of omega-3 fatty acids in them, so they are helping to preserve your brain health. They are slowing cognitive decline as you age, and they are lowering your risk of both dementia and depression. So some pretty important food groups here. I am going to be setting aside those pine nuts, and now we are going to make the sauce. So the sauce for these steaks requires a 1/4 cup of blackstrap molasses, 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, and a little pinch of black pepper. Things like salt and pepper are always to taste, so if you don't like pepper, leave it out. If you really like pepper, add some more. And I'm just gonna get this mixed together. And this is also gonna just be set aside. And we are going to be brushing the steaks with this glaze when they're close to being done. I'm also going to be steaming some broccoli to serve with this dish. So I just have frozen broccoli that just needs 5 minutes in the microwave to steam. So that's gonna make this a really quick, easy dish. I'm gonna go ahead and get the steaks open. We're gonna get to cooking them. They're gonna take about 9 to 11 minutes. We are looking for 160 degrees for medium, which is how I like them. And since I'm cooking, that's how we're doing it. If you like them more rare, you would go to 145 degrees. Before we get going with those steaks, I am going to get my peppers starting to rehydrate. And I am going to eyeball this. So that is maybe 1/2 cup. Just adding enough water to cover them, and I will drain that water off, and we are about ready to cook them. These steaks are about 1/2 pound each because each package is 1 pound. And we're gonna do 4. Now I'm gonna follow the directions for this recipe, which says to just add some black pepper to these steaks. Normally I would do salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, and red pepper flake. That is my go-to seasoning for steaks, but we're gonna do just as the recipe says. So I've got one side seasoned, I've got my pan turned on, and it's on about a medium right now. So I can go ahead and get the seasoned side down in the pan. And then I can season the other side. I'm going to go for 4 minutes on this side, and then we'll flip them over, and then we will temp them and see how much longer we need, but this should go pretty quick. This recipe also calls for fresh basil, which, believe it or not, I actually have fresh basil still alive because it is an unseasonably warm fall this year. So I am stacking the basil. I'm gonna try to chiffonade this. The leaves are not, wide, so we'll see if this works. We'll do 2 stacks. So I'm just stacking them up, and then I'm gonna roll them tightly if I can. And then I'm gonna go in at an angle and slice them thin, because the recipe just says thinly sliced basil. The dogs are playing. All right, now we have our basil ready. And it is just about time to give these a turn. Let's see if I can play some Tetris and get these all fit back in there again. There we go. I'll set the timer for 4 more minutes. I've poured most of the water off of these peppers, but I have left just a little bit in the bottom of the bowl. So I can go in now with those freeze-dried caramelized onions. Yes, these are actually caramelized onions. I did these in a canning recipe. It was a Rebel canning recipe that I found on that 1870s Homestead, and I made a bunch of caramelized onions in my pressure canner, and I absolutely hated them. I think they tasted awful. I don't know why, but I did not like them. But rather than throw them away, I decided to freeze dry them, and I'm so glad I did. These are amazing. So I'm gonna add probably twice as much of these that I did of the peppers, and I'm not gonna need much water to rehydrate these because I'm also going to be putting them in a skillet with some butter, and it's gonna come out phenomenal. I just know it. So we're just gonna, I'm just moving this around. These onions are going to pick up that liquid that's down here, and they're just gonna slowly start to rehydrate. And as soon as the steaks are done, I'm gonna pull those, get them covered, let them rest, and then we're gonna throw this into the pan and finish the topping for the steak, and just do 5 minutes in the microwave on the broccoli. I'm just gonna let those hang out while the steak finishes cooking. That's our timer on the steaks. So they've been in the pan for 8 minutes. The estimate is 9 to 11, but I'm gonna go ahead and temp these. So I just got a digital thermometer here, and I am gonna stick it in sideways into the center of the steak. Okay, they need a couple more minutes. We're just above 131 degrees, 132. Slowly climbing. Just give them 2 more minutes. That should do it. Now that we're down to our last couple of minutes, I almost forgot about this sauce, so let's get that on there. Those look amazing. I know it's kind of dark and hard to see, but I will show you. Look how incredible those look. All right, timer's just gone off on the stove, so these are ready to come out. These look incredible. Wow. They look fantastic. And I'm gonna cover them for 5 minutes while we get the broccoli cooked and while we get the caramelized onions and peppers ready as well. Just gonna tent this so all the heat doesn't escape. And you wanna tent your meat after cooking because the juices inside are flowing everywhere right now. It's really, really hot. And if you were to slice into it while all those juices are still flowing, as soon as you make that cut, all the juices are gonna run out of your meat and it's gonna leave it dry. So we want to let this rest for 5 minutes. And I'm also gonna throw my broccoli into the microwave to get that steaming for 5 minutes. So as soon as this is done, we're ready to serve. All right, I'm just gonna do maybe a tablespoon of butter. And I'm gonna throw in the peppers and the caramelized onions. Again, if you're doing raw peppers and onions, you might wanna start that when you put the meat in the pan. I was a little worried about freeze drying the caramelized onions because it has a lot of butter in it, so a lot of fat, but I think that they'll be fine for at least up to a year, and I've really been enjoying experimenting with ways to use them, and that's true in this case as well. So I'm gonna get these heated through, and then I am going to add in the pine nuts, and I am gonna add in a tablespoon of the balsamic vinegar as well. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and throw those pine nuts in, and about a tablespoon of the balsamic vinegar. I'm just eyeballing this. A little of the black pepper. This looks incredible. Wow, never ever would I have thrown these ingredients together like this. This looks amazing. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off. That's ready to go. I'm gonna move my basil so I can bring my steaks back. And then we're gonna get the broccoli into a bowl, and we're gonna get plated up and give this a try. I've still got that balsamic glaze, and I think I'm just going to drizzle a tiny bit of that over the broccoli. It's pretty strong, it's delicious. I did try that. Here are our gorgeous steaks, and we are gonna dress the steaks with the caramelized onions and peppers, and then a little bit of the basil as well. Look how amazing this looks. It looks absolutely delicious. Let's give it a taste test. All right, let's give this a try. It smells really good. I can smell the balsamic vinegar coming through. I can smell the toasted pine nuts in here. It does smell really good. I am going to start here with the broccoli because I always start with my vegetables. And I've got some balsamic glaze on there as well. That is incredibly disappointing. So just the broccoli. The balsamic glaze is amazing, but this is a soggy, mushy mess. I don't usually do frozen vegetables and steam them in the microwave. I just thought that that would be quick and easy. I will not do that again. This is not good. Let's give the rest of the dish a try. I think this is going to be delicious. Yes. Wow. Those caramelized onions are amazing. Did not like them when I first made them and they were canned, but now that they are freeze-dried, oh, they are so good. And those pine nuts are delicious. Those toasted pine nuts. They are bringing a lot to this plate. All right, let me try a little bit of this steak. I'm a little hesitant on this. I've never heard of this cut before. Don't know what I'm doing with this cut, but that's pretty good. It actually is tender. I don't know that I would say that it has the same texture or flavor as a ribeye. There certainly isn't much marbling in here, but it's actually pretty good. Really good. I can taste that basil too. That basil is really coming through on top. You know, running throughout the peppers and onions. That balsamic vinegar is bringing so much flavor. It's a really good pairing against the sweetness of the caramelized onions and the nuttiness of those toasted pine nuts. It's really good. I would do this again. Not the broccoli, but I would definitely do this steak again, which is good because I think I have probably 8 or 10 more of those in my freezer. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Tasty Tuesday. What do I do with this steak edition? My name is Kelly. You're at A Better Choice Homestead, and I do hope you come back and visit again soon.